Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia. This is my mother, Ema. Hey, Ema.
Hey, my sweetness. I thought of a great topic tonight. I've just
Sure.
been shopping.
Okay.
Buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse.
I just had it.
What do you just have? What do you just buy?
What happened was there was this like health drink,
Okay.
and there was a coupon for it, like a nice big coupon,
Yeah.
and this health drink, it said um in health infusion,
Okay.
um infusion and antioxidants, all
Yeah.
the good things you want to hear.
All the typical chunk. Let me guess. It's like 500 grams of sugar, 0 grams of protein.
No, it's 1 gram of sugar, but I can't stand, I cannot, I cannot imbibe anything other than real cane sugar or
Yeah.
maybe honey, because I have tried all the stevias, all
Yeah.
the so-called healthy non-sugars, you
Non-sugar
know,
sugars.
yeah, you name it, I've tried them, and there's an aftertaste that I
Yes.
cannot stand in any of them. Well,
Yes.
I'm looking at the ingredients of this thing, and it says it has erythritol, something like that, which is, it said strawberry extract. Okay.
All right. That's fine.
So I opened it up. I was very anxious to try this new health drink. And I opened it up and I started to drink it and I went, ugh.
Oh God,
And
why?
then I started to read the fine print.
Okay.
No, I drink these drinks for electrolytes because I get a lot of muscle cramps.
Mm-hmm.
So I really need electrolytes. No electrolytes and 55 grams per bottle of caffeine.
Oh, that's not that bad.
But
You only
I can't drink it past 5 o'clock because it keeps me up.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. But that's 55 grams. That's not terrible. How many cups of coffee do you have a day?
About 2.
Okay, so that's like the right healthy amount of coffee.
But I
Like,
like coffee.
but
I don't like this garbage I bought.
well, I'm surprised because I think like with your ADHD and whatnot, I think you can go to sleep real quick and like not have it bother you. No? Also, so speaking of buyer's remorse, what would I think? What did I buy and not really want to have? Um, I think there were some times where I purchased like I'm trying to think of specific items, but I remember feeling buyer's remorse with a few items when like I have like a really swift when I have a smooth salesman that like convinces me to buy something and then like a while later I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't buy that. But you know what's funny is that people are realizing like you don't want to be that kind of salesman because then they don't come back to buy more stuff. They just never see you again. And that's not what you want. And like a lot of times I'd be like, I think I went to like Spencer's one time and I was just like looking for stuff. I just like browsing. I never wanted to buy anything. I always like looking at their stupid little trinkets. And this one sales guy was like, "Oh, go ahead and you probably want this, you probably want that." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll treat myself." And I bought something. But like looking back, I'm like, that was so dumb. I wasted like $10. It was on
What
some
did you
like
buy?
I think it was Link's shield from the video game Zelda.
I'm not into that stuff.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm really into it. I'm really into it. It's just I don't know. I'm not into trinkets, and I kind of like caved into buying it myself a trinket. But actually, I have another question. What was it like interviewing for a job back in like 70s and 80s? What kind of stuff that like wouldn't fly nowadays? Like they'd ask you questions and be like, you're not legally allowed to. Like I remember one time I was being interviewed by a place. This was like years ago,
Mhm.
and it was by like I had like the three, principals coming over having an interview conversation. And one principal was like, "Oh, so how many kids do you have? Are you married?" And they're like, the other guys like stopped him, like, you can't legally ask him that. I'm like, and I was naive. I didn't realize that was a question you didn't,
Mhm.
you weren't supposed to ask. So I just responded, no, I don't have any kids and whatnot. I'm not married or whatnot. Like I just wasn't sure exactly that. But
Mhm.
like I'm realizing over time, like there's a certain level of professionalism. And what that means is like you have to be like detached and like blindly positive in an environment like that, in a work environment, you know? Um,
Well, because I really was not working in corporate America. I was
Yeah.
working in the educational field and in music education. So
Oh, Ema.
the
You have,
interviews would be, huh?
you have
Oh,
some schmutz. Yeah. There, it's
oh,
done.
I was eating a cracker.
Yes, I saw. Continue,
So,
continue.
that would be another good topic, things on my face, because I'm a klutz. I always have things on my face
All
from
right,
eating
I'll
or
step
whatever.
back and not comment.
Yeah, anyway, so, well, the first few jobs I had, there was no real interview.
Mhm.
I applied, my first real job out of high school was at Burger King.
Yeah,
'Cause usually in high school, what I did was I babysat a lot.
yeah.
And so there was no interview for that, they just wanted someone to come to the house and take care of their kids. And Burger King didn't even interview me. I just filled out the application and with the application, okay, can you start this Monday? That was it. Then my first teaching job in Baltimore City, one of the supervisors came and saw me I was doing student teaching, and she came and she watched the lesson and offered me the job.
Oh, nice.
Then when I went to New York, I went around to a few places. I showed them my resume and we spoke a little bit. And it's usually like the interviews in education are more like, what would you do if a kid did this? How would you teach this? Here's the materials that we use. What do you think of it? They want to see what your expertise is. And the first person to hire me in New York liked the fact that I had a degree in music. So he thought this was somebody who was really creative and would bring music into the classroom and maybe use it in my lessons. And so he hired me, and that job did not work out.
Oh, why? How come? What happened?
I was very inexperienced. I was not prepared to be a regular classroom teacher. I lacked the skills. I really
wow.
did. I lacked the maturity. I lacked the skills. It was a disaster. Had I had the same job now, though, I think back to that job and I think, what would I have done differently? Oh my gosh, I would have run the classroom a lot more differently. I would have had charts with, I would have put them on a point system, like a merit system, a point system with a big ice cream party. If we all get 5,000 points by the end of the year, I would have had, a chart with jobs assigned, distributor, passer, outer. My lessons would have been a lot more structured, just in general, because I have a lot more experience now. So I would have, then another interview I had was for a job teaching Hebrew school. And the principal showed me the materials. And I told her I'd taken a few courses after I got the job, I had some courses that were given to the new Hebrew teachers in Hebrew language pedagogy. And
what's pedagogy? What does that mean?
Pedagogy is teaching. It's a fancy
okay.
term for teaching skills. And they were really good. These courses were very right on. They were not philosophical courses like I had in college. These were very specific. Here's a good method for teaching Hebrew reading. And you can use this as another method. These were actual methods of teaching Hebrew reading, which was, something that was very, very good. And so the teacher, the principal, showed me the materials, and I told her, well, this is how I would teach. This is how I would teach these Hebrew words. This is how I would teach this concept. I told her what I would do. And then she said to me, this is a Reformed temple. And what would you do if one of the kids mentioned something to you about, wearing a shadel? And I perked up and said, oh, I wear a shadel. And she goes, great. She goes, that's just the reaction I wanted. She hired me.
That's wonderful. I was expecting something a little different. Like, I think I remember you had a story about teaching kashrus, and then one of the students' parents complained about it or something like that.
No, they didn't complain. She was the one that called. This was the Israeli lady who called and told me she'd given up.
Oh, yes. We had that. Yeah, we talked about that multiple times. There's no way
running away from Judaism. She goes, let's face it. And then I had a job. Then I had an interview for doing music. It was called Gesher HaTorah, which was the Jewish special ed Hebrew program on Sundays. That was for special needs people. And so when I went for the interview, the lady who interviewed me, I told her that when she goes, "What do you do with music?" I said, "Well," I said, "I teach piano and violin and voice." And I said, "I make up songs and stories for children." So she says, "Can I hear one of the songs you made up?" I said, "Sure." And I sang her the Sukkah song.
Oh, the
We're
fun of the Sukkah
going
song?
to the Sukkah, gonna have fun in the Sukkah. After the stars we shall see. It's gonna be fun for you and me. So I sang that song to her.
Nice.
And when I finished, the whole office broke out in applause.
That's great.
And then she hired me. So when I came back, when I told your father about the interview, he goes, "That has to be the stupidest interview I've ever heard of." Because he's used to corporate America, to
Oh,
working in an
yeah.
office. And I explained that, look, I said, in music education, it's not really an interview. It's more of an audition.
Well, I mean, it's my interview experience. It's a lot about like, you know, can you fulfill the tasks that are at hand, and does your education and portfolio show what you're capable of, and are you being honest with what you're saying and what you've experienced? So for me, I try to be very honest in the interview,
Mhm.
and sometimes I kind of downplay myself because I don't want them to have like these negative expectations of me, like, well, you said this and I'm expecting this. You know,
Mhm.
like, hey, we're all in here trying to learn, we're all here trying to grow. You know, I'm this is what I'm capable of, this is what I've done in the past. You know,
Mhm.
and it's very difficult because I remember having this whole conversation. I had this epiphany earlier today, where it's like, I worked for this one. A lot of architects had a very similar approach, where they kind of wanted their own way, or they kind of wanted you to go similar to what they thought of, and they didn't want you to go over the boundaries and try to do their job, and they wanted you to like confront them and say like, hey, can I do this, should I do this, just to clarify, just to make sure. And a previous experience I had, the head architect owner didn't want that to happen. He wanted me to be more independent and try to be more, resourceful. And I was so used to not doing that, and so used to like asking questions, that unfortunately kind of shoot myself in the foot, where he was getting frustrated, where he was like, just figure this out yourself. I'm like, I kind of could, but I don't want to like ruin it for you. You know what I mean? But like, that's just
No.
kind of like, it's life. I've listened to people and heard stories and done my own experience, and it's just, you might have all these things of like, do this to get an interview, do this to get a job, do this to keep the job, and like, you'll do everything right and then do everything wrong. It doesn't, like, just do the best you can and learn from your mistakes.
I think that's a good philosophy. And I'm one of these people also, there's a fine line between selling yourself and lying. I don't think it's good to lie. I agree with you about that. If something is not your expertise, something is not your field, I think it's important to say, this is not my expertise, or, well, this is my expertise, and this is what I've done. Like you said, I think it's important to be honest about yourself.
Yeah.
But you were talking about like interviews years ago, not in my generation, but in talking to other women, other teachers who were like 20 years my senior, that were basically in the job market, breaking into the job market in the 50s and 60s. There were some real serious, disgusting abuses in some of these interviews. This woman told me that she worked at a school where at the beginning of the year, all the female staff had to submit a gynecological report confirming that they were not pregnant to the
Wow.
male principal,
What? How?
because he figured this was a private school, and he figured, hey, I want to hire a teacher that I know is going to be here for the entire year. Can you imagine that? You could never get away with that now. But
I,
this was in the 50s and 60s. They used to do stuff like that.
oh my gosh, what else would they do? What other, like, would there be any issues of sexual harassment? Would there be any issues of like a lot of like sexual name calling and things like that? Like, hey Toots, hey Barbie doll, hey honey bun, what's going on?
Yep.
What were you called back in the day?
I never, well, in my field, I did have a couple male principals, but they were okay. They were gentlemen. They pretty much behaved themselves. I'm trying to think that I never, thank God, I was very lucky. I never had a case, thank God, of sexual harassment. Thank God, I was very, very lucky. I never had to deal with that. but I know somebody who told me she was a social worker and she was in the supply room to get some supplies that she needed. And I don't know if it was a coworker or one of the bosses, cornered her, grabbed her, and gave her a real sexy embrace and kiss.
Wow.
And she kind of just kind of shoved him away and ran out of the supply room. And in those days, women did not report this stuff.
Jeez
They didn't.
Louise.
It was embarrassing. And besides the fact, remember, we went over this like in one of our podcasts. There was a very much in those days, they blamed the victim mentality,
Really?
where if you reported these things, if you put anything, you would most likely you would get blamed.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah. Thank God I never had that. Thank God, I was very lucky.
What about your mother being a secretary during the war? Did she probably didn't say anything or tell you anything?
The only thing she
likely.
told me was she had some she had one particular she had a little anti-Semitism in the
Okay.
offices during World War II, where one of her best friend, in fact, this woman she was friends with for years and years and years, the lady's name was Frances, and she was a religious Roman Catholic. She was Italian descent, and my mother could pass for being Italian because she had very curly black hair and kind of like, well, not real olive complexion. She was kind of like Snow White, you might say, but dark eyes, black hair. And so there was another woman in the office who was also of Italian descent, was a Roman Catholic, and she made a comment to my mother's friend Frances. Oh, isn't this wonderful? We now have 3 women all working together and we're all Italian Catholics. Isn't that great? And Frances said, who? And she says, Rena, because she heard the name Rena,
Yeah.
and that was an Italian name. And Frances says, are you kidding? Because Rena's Jewish. And my mother said that after that, this woman's whole attitude toward her totally, not Frances, of course, Frances and she were always friends, but this other woman's attitude towards her in the office totally changed. She wouldn't talk to her. She wouldn't have anything to do with her. She would just constantly avoid her. If my mother would ask her a question, she would ignore her.
Oh, wow. But that was the 40s. Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Now it's worse.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, during the 40s itself, anti-Semitism was kind of bad. I mean, in Europe in general. So like,
well, when I was in college, don't worry, when I was in college, I was working in this student opportunity center, and this black girl right in front of me starts to yell about some Jew bitch.
Yeah.
So I looked at her and I said, oh, the girl's name was Michelle. Oh, today is Michelle's liberal day.
That's cute. That's cute. I'm glad we could all laugh at this stuff now. But kind of shifting on, I have a question for you. What artist were you into, but then lost interest, and why?
Question. Oh, when I was a teenager, when I was a teenager,
yeah,
I had this mad crush on the associate conductor of Baltimore Symphony. His name was Eliakim Shapiro.
Nerd.
And you can ask Aunt Ann. I had crushes on historical figures or concert artists. I did not have crushes on rock and roll singers or movie stars. I could have cared less about them.
You really didn't get laid in college. Oh my gosh.
What did you say just now, boy?
I said, I really think you did a fantastic job, especially in college.
I heard that from Mark. I heard what you said. That was X-rated, and this is supposed to be a family show.
It is a family show. I do apologize to our listeners. Please listen to us, Jewish Boy Calls His Mother, on Instagram and Facebook, and find us every Thursday at 9 p.m.
It's a good thing I'm not sitting next to you, that we're doing this via telephone.
Can't touch me. Yeah. Wait.
Can I punch you through the screen?
No, you can't. You can't. Not yet. Honestly, nowadays.
Hey, with AI, with virtual reality.
Oh my God!
Eventually, I'll be able to push a button and something will come out of the phone, will do like an electric shock.
I can't wait. I love AI so much. I use it all the time for so many things. It helps me solve so many problems and resolve so many issues of comprehension. You know, what would take me forever to ask somebody and call someone up and and discuss something and figure out what to say. Like I just punch in a question and respond and ask for a certain type of response, and I get that response right away, and I know what to do, and it explains the response. It's just, I praise it. I love it.
Technology is, I don't understand this business of all these people going, oh, this technology is so horrible, so horrible, so horrible. Are you kidding me? Technology is neutral. It depends how you use it.
Oh,
Simple as that.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
But you still didn't answer that question though. What kind of artists were you into, and then you stopped being into it?
Okay. What I simply got, I got, I got older. I
Oh,
got older and
Eliakim
realized
Schwartz.
that this was,
Ew. No,
they realized that, hey, this is a meaningless crush. And come on, you know what I mean? You grow up, you get older.
I'm not talking I think that's not what I'm really saying. It's a cute story, but what I mean to say is, I'll give you an example. I would be really into, let me think. Actually, let me answer the question the way I want the answer to be answered, and then you'll take it from there. I'm trying to think. Something I was into and I was into at one point and then lost interest in the artist. I think I want to say an artist, and I just kind of lost interest in his art form.
Andy Warhol.
No, I actually like Andy Warhol, but that's my point. Like I'd be really into Andy Warhol, then at some point I would lose interest. But it's a deep question because I don't think I think I've kind of kept interest in all of my artists that I've had, and artists that I've listened to, a lot of musical artists, especially, that I'm still into. I don't think I've ever lost interest in them. But that's where I understand why you can't answer, because I don't think you've ever lost interest in an artist. And that's what I'm saying, in the art itself.
How can you lose interest in, especially classical music, which has withstood the test of time? By the way, great artist to be into. Have you ever seen the works of Salvador Dali?
Yes.
Isn't it amazing? I remember when he was interviewed on the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
And on various TV circuits when he was just being recognized. And his art at the time, the surrealistic art, was something brand new. I mean, the melting clocks.
Yeah.
What people liked about Salvador Dali.
Yeah.
Is, okay, Picasso with his pointillism, his cubism. Okay, that was interesting. That was a new art form. That was a new form of painting. But Salvador Dali took traditional art techniques of portraits and of backgrounds and of scenery, but then enhanced it in such a way that it became, in other words, it was the same, like the clock, the melting clock is a clock, but you can just see it liquefy.
I think what you're trying to
clock, which is amazing. But I want to say about the interview though. Yes. I'm sure you could look it up on YouTube.
Yes.
This interview, the man, I remember what he looked like and how he spoke beautiful, beautiful accent, Spanish accent. Very, he was a thin guy, very thin with a goatee, brown hair. He had brown hair. He was a dark, he's an olive complexion, dark hair.
I thought he just had a mustache. He didn't have a goatee. He had a really weird mustache.
I thought he had a goatee when I saw him in the interview. Maybe he shaved it, but I'm almost sure he had a goatee at the time. And the interviewer, I think it might have been Johnny Carson or somebody else, said to him, who do you think is the greatest artist of the 20th century? And Salvador Dali said, Dali.
Oh, that's cute.
He was funny. He was very lighthearted, funny guy. He impressed me as being kind of egotistical, but hey, he had a right to be. He was one of the top artists of the 20th century.
I think what you were trying to say between Picasso and Salvador Dali is Picasso found a new way of creating art, but that new method to the layman would feel like, hey, I can copy this. But with Salvador Dali, his method was so out of the box, but his design style, his artistic style, was something that the average person knew they couldn't copy. And I think that's what brought interest to Salvador Dali. compared to like Picasso's latest work. Because if you look at Picasso's earlier work, which I saw at the BMA, it's beautiful. It's fantastic. Like it's real pristine art. And I think what happened was he just got bored of it and was trying to find another method to express himself. And I think especially because of, you know, the capabilities of the camera and photography, it kind of destroyed a lot of interest in regular realism art. You know, it's like, why do we need to see a picture of somebody with a bowl of fruit? I don't really care. I can take a picture of it. I don't need someone to draw it for me.
Yeah. I think you nailed it on the head with the advent of photography and the development of photography. Like, you're right. People probably felt that way. Why do I need a painting of a bowl of fruit? I can take a picture and have the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
And that's where the idea of surrealism, cubism, pointillism, all these isms of art started to develop, because now we got to look at it in a different way, in a different light, and we weren't necessarily held down to the restrictions of, well, the light's not hitting here exactly, and it's not showing this exactly here, and you have to be so accurate here. Like, there's no need for it. I mean, back in the day, literally, they would send artists to, like, you know, doctors' offices or to, you know, places in Europe or places in Africa, be like, please, like, literally take a picture, as in draw the picture as specifically as possible, so we could show it to everyone else and they will see your picture and understand what you're looking at. Now it's just like, you know, oh, just click picture, done. You know,
especially the phones now. I have seen the newer phones now that have the three cameras on the back.
Yes.
Cameras on the back. Oh my goodness. They take pictures like a professional.
Yes. Yes, they do.
They're absolutely amazing.
Things are HD. And that's the whole point, where it's just like, now there's this thing called hyperrealism, where it looks so high definition. It is amazing. And that's something that artists are bringing back now, where it's like, we're taking pictures again, but now it's supposed to be so detailed. You're like, this is beyond reality, how amazing this is.
Well, that's Andrew Wyeth. His pictures, his paintings are very, very standard and traditional. He's a traditional artist, but that's the thing. He brought out the minutest detail that you can't get in a photograph. Yeah.
Yes.
That was so amazing about him. But you were asking me before, though, about like my preferences in guys.
Yes.
You kind of like jolted my memory. When I was in high school, quite honestly, I never went for the jocks.
Yeah, you said that multiple times.
That's it. Oh,
yeah.
I like the guys that were kind of like very intellectual and a little klutzy. Like, guys were kind of a little klutzy.
So Tati, okay, we get it. His vertigo was his advantage. Well, I was gonna say that, like, what's interesting about, I would say, an artist like Norman Rockwell, because this was the beginning of people taking photos and art taking on a new form. His photos were really just capturing moments in time with so much action. Like,
I thought Norman Rockwell wasn't he the one that I thought he was an artist. I thought he painted.
Yeah, I said painted.
Oh, you said took pictures.
No, I said okay. So I might have misspoke. What I meant to say. What I meant to say was, even during the times of taking pictures, Norman Rockwell was someone who can take, you know, not take a picture, but to draw, you know, these photos, these photographic, you know, pictures with, you know, his painting and things like that, and we're able to capture moments in American history.
Right.
And it's whatever. I mean, I'm not an expert. I've had my own personal experience with you know, with art, and I take a liking to Norman Rockwell's work because it's, in a way, it'd be the most mundane situations, like a kid like going to the doctor, or like a Thanksgiving dinner, or like someone fixing their hair for a date, and like there's such a charm to it. Like, you can't even, like, I can't put it into words to really explain, but it's just it's fun. It's just a lot of fun. Like, you want to be in that picture. You want to live that moment.
Oh gosh,
you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to think of like artists that I've lost interest in. But I don't think I've ever lost interest in an artist I enjoyed over time.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anyone that I've lost. No.
Well, was there any artist, I guess that I know who Tati was into. Tati was in the Moody Blues, the band, CCR, all the typical like cool stuff.
Yeah.
Back in the day. He also liked Marshall
There was
McLuhan.
one time that your father, people, there's a friend of mine who says, I can't understand you and your husband. She goes, you're involved in music. Goes, you sing, you play piano. You're married to a man who's totally tone deaf. I can't understand it. There was one time
It's a power play.
when your father was in the shower. One time,
Yes, you told me you thought he was dying or tripped himself.
Screaming. Yeah, he was singing. Yeah,
yeah.
I thought he had fallen in the shower and hurt himself.
No,
he said,
no, he did not.
Singing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But I what about what Bubby or Zadie were into? Because I know we kind of tapped into it, but I wonder maybe we could dive a little further.
Would you believe my parents were into the latest rock and roll music at the time?
Really?
In fact, my mother one time was laughing. When I was a teenager.
Oh yes. We talked about this.
Yeah,
we talked about this.
The teenagers listening to classical music. The parents were upstairs listening to rock and roll.
Yeah. So they didn't.
But they like the jitterbug. They like the old, like the Glenn Miller, the big band sound of the 1940s, Andrew Sisters. The regular, your regular pop music of the 40s and 30s. And my father liked, the old songs. In fact, he used to sing them with us when we were little kids.
Like what songs?
The one that kids sing now in preschool for head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes.
Yeah.
Well, the real song behind that is, oh, there's a tavern in the town, and there my true love sets her down, and drinks her wine as merry as can be, and never, never thinks of me.
Oh, wow. That's a nice fun song.
Then there was the one, that funny song from the 1940s, when they cut down the old pine tree.
Oh yes, they took it away to the mill.
They made a coffin of pine for that sweetheart of mine when they cut down the old pine tree.
Yeah. Weren't there a few? Were there any songs that Zadie liked to sing on the piano, or like you would play and then you guys would be like, oh, that's like an old classic that we all knew?
He used to like to play Enkel Kanu.
Really?
On the piano.
Which tune? Which tune?
He would play it in a ragtime style.
Oh, like how? Like what do you mean?
Oh,
I see.
Yeah, and we would sing along while he was playing.
Okay.
There was also a very pretty, the one In a Little Spanish Town. I think we sang that on one of our podcasts.
Maybe.
It was in a little Spanish town, was on a night like this. All the stars were shining bright, was on a night like this. She whispered, be true to me. And I sighed, see.
Oh, I don't think we've ever talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about one of our podcasts.
We did? I don't remember.
I'm almost sure. And then there was what else? He used to sing Sweet Adeline with us.
Oh, Sweet Adeline. How did that go again?
Yeah, in harmony.
Sweet Adeline.
Sweet Adeline. Want to try it? Okay.
No, I can't harmonize. I can't harmonize.
You're not harmonizing. You're going to sing the melody and hold the last note, and I'll sing the harmony. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know how it goes. I only know that line, Sweet Adeline.
Okay, it goes like this. Sweet Adeline, and you hold that line.
Sweet Adeline.
Sweet Adeline. Then you go, my Adeline.
My Adeline.
My Adeline. And you go, at night, dear heart.
At night, dear heart.
At night, dear heart. You go, for you I pine.
For you I pine.
For you I pine. You gotta hold that last note.
Whatever. For you I pine.
I know. No, you would sing the melody. You sing the melody. For you I
For
Now you got
you,
me.
my yeah. You know what's funny? I'll give you an example. You know what's funny? So I watch Family Guy, and Seth MacFarlane, the creator of it and the voice of it and all that stuff, he loved musicals. He loves classic like Frank Sinatra crooners. He loves the old timey kind of songs. So he takes a lot of that and then puts in his own humor. So one of the songs he sings, and I love singing it in harmony, so to speak, is "You Have AIDS." It goes, "You have AIDS. Yes, you have AIDS, not HIV, but you have full-blown AIDS. Yes, full-blown AIDS. It must have been when you stuck that needle inside over there. Or maybe that's an unprotected sex that we hear. It's not clear, but what is clear is that you have AIDS. Yes, you have AIDS, not HIV, but full-blown AIDS. We're sorry to see it's not HIV, but full-blown AIDS. It's HIV, but you got full-blown AIDS. I'm sorry, it isn't anything a little less serious."
Seth, was it Seth? What's his name? Oh God.
Seth MacFarlane?
Yeah, McFarlane. His stuff, his humor is so like
I love it.
perverted.
I love it so much. I love it so much. It makes me so happy. His work makes me so happy. I'm so happy that like that exists in my life. Like,
Has he produced anything recently?
I'm trying to think. I haven't checked lately.
I remember seeing the movie that was hysterical. What's it? 1,000 Ways to Die in the West.
That was good.
So
I loved it.
fun.
I loved it. It didn't do so well. People didn't like it, but I loved it. I
liked
really
it.
did. There was Ted 2. They're having a Ted TV show coming out.
I wasn't so crazy about the Ted movies.
Really?
I thought they were kind of
I
gross.
love them. Oh, they're just,
I wasn't so
it's not my
crazy
humor.
about
It's just really gross and disgusting. It's just crude humor. It just, try doing something more creative. I think it's just a very lowbrow humor. Waka, 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 waka.
Like a friend of mine said in college, sexual humor is the last resort of the untalented.
And where is he now?
I don't know. I broke up with him years ago. He's an abusive SOB.
So why would you listen to that kind of like whatever? What, some pretentious asshole that was your boyfriend in college you gave a shit about? Jeez Louise. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Tati's famous line was, "If my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a trolley car."
Trolley car. Yeah.
I like that though. You know why? Because
What the grandmother?
No, it's a famous line. It's because it's like you're making all these what ifs. Just focus on what you have right now. Like, don't worry about it. And that's the whole point of it. Like, don't worry. It's another way of saying, like, that's why I think there was this like famous YouTube clip of like this bake off of whatnot, and like it's these two British people pissing off this Italian dude, and the two British people are like, "Oh, if you do this, it kind of tastes like a carbonara." And the Italian guy's like, "Yes, if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike. Like, what's your point?" We're like, there it is. Yeah. It's fun. It's fun. It's exciting. I'm trying to think of what about any phrases you say? "Let's blame the mother. It's the typical thing to do. Let's blame the mother instead of looking at me or you."
But that's not a phrase. That's a song that I made up. So
passive aggressive songs towards your children to make them feel guilty. All right, whatever. It's fine. It's life. I don't care. Trying to think, what lines would you say?
Pick it up.
That's again. That is a ditty. That is a ditty. That is not necessarily a line. That is a ditty, not necessarily a line.
Okay, here's a line. If we all pick, I think when I say if we all clean the house together, it'll only take a few minutes or a little while. But if one person has to do it all, then it's going to take me hours, if not days.
Another one would be, "I'll be out in a minute." Yes, that's a very, very famous line. All right, Ima, I love you very much. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Have a wonderful weekend. God willing, talk to you soon. All right.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.